Welcome to the Fallout Complete Story. In the lore of Fallout, we know about the Great War, but what led to the Great War? It was the Resource Wars, the war driving everyone into the vaults in Fallout 4. Everything started in 2052 when the smaller nations went bankrupt. So they raised all of their oil prices to try and fix their problem, but Europe responded with military action. Shortly after the war began, a terrorist attack launched a nuclear weapon on a city in Israel. As nuclear exchanges started happening, Project Safe House was initiated and the constructions of the vault began. By 2059, the US started the Anchorage front line to protect their oil interest in Alaska, but this led to further problems as they tried to pressure Canada to let them guard the pipeline. Once we reached 2060, the oil fields in the Middle East ran dry, and both Europe and the smaller nations were in ruins from the war. Because of this, the European Commonwealth dissolved as they fought over the resources they did acquire. 6 years later, Canadian and US negotiations were in ruins and tensions ran high until eventually Canada backed down, giving the US free pass into Alaska. But this led to the US taking Canada's resources and applying more pressure to the nation by destroying vast stretches of timberland forests and other resources, which then led to some Americans calling Canada Little America and Canadians protesting. The protest eventually turned into riots in 2072, and Canadians attempted to sabotage the Alaskan pipelines, which was the excuse the US needed to occupy Canada. By 2074, the president of the US had enough of the debates with the other world powers about the oil and walked out, declaring the last remaining oil would be used exclusively for the US. 2 years later, the US completely occupied Canada and protesters were shot on sight, while the US increased its military forces around the Alaskan pipeline. During 2077, the Chinese forces attempted to invade Alaska and take the Alaskan pipelines, which led to the invention of the first power armor before the US could retake Alaska. Now, with power armor at their disposal, the US used it on their homeland for crowd control and quarantine control. Everyone started to get ready for a nuclear attack as debates grew even more heated, and on October 23rd, the Great War officially started. Now, if you want to know more about the Great War, you can click the video on the screen right now. But before we close this, I do want to clarify something. Records within the game logs are conflicting at times as to when and how this actually happened, and even Bethesda themselves can't seem to figure out how they want to do it. This is either to leave the fun what really happened idea behind it, or they haven't bothered confirming it. Fallout 2 states the Chinese began attacking much earlier than we've stated here. The Fallout Bible, however, states a timeline very close to what we have here. So you can decide yourselves what's true and accurate. Alright guys, don't forget to favorite and like this video if you learned something new. Subscribe for more content, follow us on Twitter @EligibleMonster for updates, and I'll see you guys next time, right here.